Hello, and welcome to World Civilizations 1. We are on Chapter 6 today. We are talking about the Americas and the Pacific Islanders, and we will learn where they believe tattoos came from as a form of art form. Um, so it's one of those places. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint. Um, we are going to talk about something called the Amerindians. I just wanted to talk for a second. So Columbus, when he sailed the ocean blue, was headed for India. So when he got to the island of Hispaniola, which is part Haiti, part Dominican Republic, he called everyone Indians because he really believed he was in India. So that really kind of messed us all up because the only Indians are in India. Okay. So what we call Indians, Columbus got it wrong. In America, North and South America, we call them Native Americans or we call them Amerindians. And that is actually in your book. And it's actually a pretty cool name because Columbus was wrong. So, anyway, interesting fact, and I think that might be on your quiz as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint and we'll get started. Okay. The settlement of the Americas and the Pacific Islands. All right. Oh, this is so cool. So this is a colossal Olmec head, 1500 BCE. This colossal head portrays a composite leader, deity figure wearing a headgear of sacred ball player. They had different sports. One sport kind of looked like soccer, one sport kind of looked like basketball, a little more violent too. The fat, drooping lips, and fat nose are stylistic characteristics of Olmec sculptures. The huge granite block was carved without metal tools. The Olmec head could have served as a throne of a leader. Super cool. Here's the chronology. Arrival of the ancestral Native Americans. We know that they came over on what is called Beringia. There's the Bering Strait now between Alaska and Russia, but there was an ice bridge before, and it was called Beringia, and they could just walk across. All right. Paleo-Indian period, the Clovis and Folsom hunting cultures, archaic gathering cultures, agriculture begins to spread, Olmec civilization, Chauvin civilization, early woodland civilization, settlement of the Polynesian Pacific Islands. Earliest Americans. Migrants from Asia came in 3 to 4 waves from 20,000 to 10,000 BCE. First Amerindian group came from the Northeast Asia, spread through Canada, South America. Second group came from Central Asia. Some settled in Western Canada. Navajo, Apaches went to American Southwest. Last group came from the Northeast Asia and went to Canada and Alaska, which is the Inuit tribe. Most widely accepted theory, they crossed Beringia, the land bridge, during the Ice Age. Paleo-Indian America, pre-agrarian, before there was farming. Paleo-Indian culture could find abundant food in America. Clovis culture, earliest known hunting culture, used Clovis points, and I believe there's pictures in your book. Larger, not spears, to kill bigger game. Remember, there were woolly mammoths that were 20-something feet high. So, archaic period, warmer, drier. People depended on gathering as game disappeared. Tools and weapons, Folsom points, hammerstones. I always say this a word wrong. The spear thrower. Let me double check. I want to say it the right way. It's a really interesting word too. Okay, so super important to know how to say different words. And so I always look it up on YouTube or on the internet. It's going to say it.
Atlatl.
Atlatl. So these were spear throwers and spears.
Atlatl.
Atlatl. Atlatls. That's a really interesting word, and it is a word that was super, this tool was super important to this archaic period. Okay, little was known about the social organization in this period. Probably small, isolated, highly mobile families. Separation of these human communities led to cultural and language differences. North America's Archaic period. All right, let's just make sure that we are recording, because that is no fun when you think you're recording and you are not. All right. Okay, most of Canada and northern part of the United States was covered with glaciers. So much water taking up and ice. Ocean levels were lower and land bridges like Beringia. You can see Beringia because there was so much ice, it sucked up all the water, and there was actually a land bridge. So it made it, they could come through these ice corridors and possibly land. Okay. Now this is awesome. And this is also a part, this can be your a bonus points. This is one of the top 10 ancient wonders of the world. You know the 7 wonders of the world, pretty much set in stone. But they believe 8, 9, or 10 would probably be the Serpent Mound. Serpent Mound is, I believe, the only one of the ancient wonders of the world built by man that's in North America, and it's only 50 minutes away, maybe an hour. I've taken my boys several times. It is awesome. It is a snake. It's in the form of a snake, and the snake's head is eating a egg. And this was a main center of worship for the Adena Indians. They were woodland Indians that built this. So they also built burial mounds, but this was really an ancient wonder of the world, because when you go, the points of summer solstice, winter solstice, autumn solstice, spring solstice, all these different configurations are mathematical, and they align, and it's really awesome. I've taken my sons twice. If you go there and you get up in the tower, you take a selfie behind you, and then I want you to give me a piece of paper that you picked up. They have pamphlets, and then write a half a page about your experience. It's really amazing. And it's supposed to be like an energy spiritual center. Like when we were there were people like doing different traditions or ceremonies. It was really amazing. So the people of the woodlands either cremated or buried their dead in simple mounds, which typically contain the remains of several related individuals. People of the Adena culture also created elaborate animal-shaped mounds, such as the Serpent Mound in Ohio, for reasons that are unclear. Okay, it's very cool. The museum's neat. The gift shop's neat. It's great for field trips for kids. I've had some students take dates there. I've had whole families go, get a picnic. It's gorgeous. Woodland civilizations east of the Mississippi began to cultivate wild plants and settle in villages, adopted bow and arrow in the place of the Atlatl, Adena culture. Present-day Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New York, West Virginia, unique practice of the Adena, cremated their dead or buried them in mounds, and they made plain pottery. Here we have the Mesoamerica and the Olmec civilization. The Olmec and Chavan were the first complex societies of regional significance in the Americas. Each of these cultures extended influence through compelling religions that were disseminated by means of extensive trade. Result of environmental change, end of the Ice Age, drier climate. Agriculture developed independently in both Mexico and Peru. Mexico grew maize, chili, pumpkins, beans. Peru, potatoes, which is amazing because potatoes came from South America. You've heard of the Irish potato famine. Well, they made their way to Ireland, easy to grow, and then there was that famine and blight, but they really are from Peru. Maize cultivation spread along trade routes. Maize became staple grain of the Native Americans. Technology and material limitations, stone tools. They did not have iron. They did not have the metals. Lack of draft animals. They didn't have horses there. Absence of wheeled vehicles and pulleys, but they did just fine. Innovations, digging, sticks, foot hose, artificial islands made in the swamps in Mexico, complex irrigation systems, and terracing in Peru. Animals bred for food. In Mesoamerica, you had turkeys. In the Andes, you had guinea pigs and llamas. High productivity and good nutrition contributed to the rise of the great civilizations. Agriculture firmly established in 2000 BCE, developed new crafts, weaving, basketry, pottery, lived in settled villages, permanent buildings, pit houses, held periodic regional meetings. Later, meeting houses evolved into ceremonial centers and trading hubs, Olmec civilization in Mesoamerica and Chavan civilization in South America. Mesoamerica, Olmec civilization located in southeastern Mexico. Cities had religious centers with pyramids, temples, palaces, traded rubber, pottery, ceramics, obsidian, jade, cacao beans. They had feline gods. Jaguar was super revered. In fact, the Olmec priest would dress up as a jaguar or eagle to do different rituals. Very cool. They had number systems, the abacus, bloodletting for rituals, and sacred ball games. All right. Pre-Columbian Peru, diverse ecology, 20,000 foot mountains separate Pacific Ocean from the Amazon rainforest. No writing system. First settlement was unclear. They had fisheries, collective food baskets, more nutritious than Mesoamerica. They had quinoa. Quinoa is at the bottom of your PowerPoint. Quinoa. You can actually go to Panera today and get a quinoa salad. It looks like quinoa. You say quinoa. It is really a great grain that is super healthy for you. So they've had it for a long time. They actually used to feed quinoa to llamas as well. Fruit in the tropical rainforest. So they had a really balanced diet. Metallurgy, gold, silver, copper, some bronze. They didn't have the iron and that sort of thing. Cotton and wool textiles, production, women's work. So women, whether you're rich, poor, or a slave, only women, girls would all be taught to weave. It didn't matter on classes. If you were rich, you would be taught to weave as a little girl and know how to as a woman. If you were poor, the same, and if you were a slave. Okay. Religious sites, mummified remains also revered, wrapped in Peruvian textiles. A knotted abacus. So you know that numbers were very important. I have an abacus downstairs. Of course, I bought an abacus because my kids, you want to show them the abacus. It's really fun to play with when you're a kid in elementary school. Trade with Mesoamerica brought maize to North America, corn, cities with pyramids, plazas, hydrographic systems. Okay. Here we have an ancient Peruvian textile. The woolen weaving from the southern coast of Peru portrays a deity that combines features of a jaguar, a bird, and a serpent. 3 symbolic images shared by the Indian culture from the Chavan forward. The encoded message of this textile was clear to ancient Indian people. Supernatural, animal, and human beings could be transformed one into the other through the agency of the shaman priest. Textiles were pages in the sacred records of the non-literate cultures. Okay, there was some writing, and we'll talk about that later in the Aztec culture. Located between Peruvian coast and Andean foothills, great variety of terrains, grassy plateaus, frigid mountains, coastal plains, lush tropical valleys. Traded nutritious foods, fish meal, potatoes, fruit, sweet potatoes, pineapples, manioc, quinoa, native grain, and later maize became the staple. Right. Learned to divert rivers to irrigate crops, grew cotton, squash, lima beans, cocoa, and chili. Organized village clans, oversaw irrigation, supervised religious activities and ceremonial centers. Rival chiefdoms rose after 1800 BCE. Peruvian textiles, exquisite Andean art, used as status symbol. Okay. Quipos was a knotted rope calculated to calculate and record data. So it looked like an abacus in a rope form. Right, that was in your reading. Similar to contemporary Olmec civilization, use of llama facilitated trade, and it was like a pack animal. Let's see. The Chavan hegemony due to trade and cultural exchange rather than political power or military might. So they were into trade and cultural exchanges. Priests organized irrigation projects, supervised labor, Religion, center of worship, feline, eagle, serpent, god. This is what's cool. So the shaman, I believe it might be a quiz question. The shaman, the priest dresses jaguars, the eagles, staged elaborate ceremonies with smoke and waterworks. Awesome. That would be cool to see. The capital, 10,000 feet above sea level, pilgrimage site with terrace shrine and blunt-tipped pyramid. Successfully fed the dense population in a hard-to-reach locations. They were really creative when it came to feeding. Overpopulation, increased social stratification, rising militarism, influence seceding Peruvian kingdoms. Polynesians in the settlements of Oceanias. Austronesians, they're the ones that they believe invented tattoos. Language group, ancestors of the Polynesians, Indonesians, Malaysians used stone tools and shell tools, built rafts, boat, outrigger, canoes with stone planks. All I can think of is, the Hawaiian Disney movie is all I can think of right now. Moana. Because they actually had boats that could travel quite a distance. They valued exploration and colonization, spread Neolithic culture, grew yams, taro, raised pigs and chickens. I believe there's a chicken in Moana as well, and pigs in the Disney movie. Now, not all Disney movies are true. Okay, that is not an academic source, but it's nice to see that somebody did a little bit of research before they did it. Had trade networks. Lapita culture, island of north of New Guinea, descendants were Polynesians, built large, double-hulled outrigger canoes that could carry colonizers to distant islands. Austronesians of Madagascar gained iron technology from Africa and took it elsewhere. Part of Indian Ocean Trade Network introduced Southeast Asian yam to Africa. Look at that boat. It is beautiful. It looks just like Moana. This is a Polynesian platform canoe, Hokulea. Big canoes like this one enabled ancestral Polynesians to reach distant islands of the Pacific and to colonize even the most barren ones. Their double hull gave them great stability when sailing the huge swells of the Pacific. Additionally, platforms built across the hulls could carry enough food to last many weeks. And here you have, the from Madagascar all the way over the Philippines. And you got them going, New Zealand, Australia, and touching up pretty close to, Hawaiian Islands, definitely, Easter Island, close to the Americas. Wow, that's amazing. The first wave of Homo sapiens reached near Oceania about 40,000 BCE. Many millennia later, 4,000 BCE, some intrepid Austronesian-speaking people from Taiwan began spreading throughout the islands of Southeast Asia. So that concludes Chapter 6 on settling the Americas and the Pacific Islanders. And hope you have a great night.